Stop settling for weak sound. It's time to level up your game and bring the boom. Hit the town with the ultra-durable LG X-Boom portable speaker and enjoy vibrant sound wherever you go. Elevate your listening experience to new heights because, let's be real, your music deserves it. The future of sound is now with LG X-Boom. And for a limited time, save 25% at LG.com with code FALL25. Bring the boom. X-Boom.
Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies. Inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Welcome to Wake Up Heavy, my weird dad's weird podcast about weird movies.
Hello and welcome to Wake Up Heavy, Recollections of Horror. This is Mark, and today I'm doing something different. This may or may not turn into a random and irregular series of short recordings based on movies that for some reason I didn't watch back in the 80s during the VHS days, but have since seen and leave me asking, why didn't I rent this? So that is the name of the series, and I think my goal is to put these up for a short while, and then maybe after 6 or so of them, collect them onto one long episode to make available at some point. If I ever do a Patreon subscription or membership, then they may premiere there first as a kind of bonus episode. But for now, since I have SoundCloud and unlimited upload ability, I may as well throw some other stuff out there. And these may end up being a little bit funky because I'm not going to worry too much about editing. Excuse me, I'm not going to edit for a day like I do on the regular episodes. So the first movie in the Why Didn't I Rent This is something that I've seen twice now, called The Beast Within from 1982, directed by Philipe Mora and written by Tom Holland. And I'm pretty sure I saw this box in our local video store when I was younger. As is the case with a lot of this stuff, I do conflate things. I get confused. The image is very familiar to me, and so I always just assume, well, that's because you saw the video box. But it's also on my Psychotronic list of films to track down, so it's very possible that I saw it when I was pretty young, and by it I mean the box, not the movie. And by the time I got Psychotronic, I think I was in my late teens, and it very well could be that that video store was gone, and I was going to places like Video Zone in town, which was kind of a big local chain, and Tower Records, and they very well may not have had it, so I missed it somehow, and I think it's a movie that I really would have liked as a kid. It's pretty hit and miss. Of course, I'm watching it with grown-up eyes and a grown-up brain, but I can see a lot of the stuff in there that I liked back then. And it's got a pretty great cast. We have Ronnie Cox from Deliverance, Bibi Besh, who I'm not very familiar with, Paul Clemens, who plays the protagonist/antagonist, and then a bunch of those familiar faces from 70s and 80s movies that when you watch, you're going to go, oh man, what was that guy in? What was this guy in? What was that gal in? So we've got Don Gordon, R.G. Armstrong, Catherine Moffat, L.Q. Jones, Logan Ramsey, John Dennis Johnston, Ron Sobel, Luke Askew, and Meshack Taylor in one of his early roles. I'm sure we've got some Murder, She Wrote alum in there. The story by Tom Holland is very interesting, and I am actually a fan of Tom Holland's. He has written a lot of movies that I've watched and liked, and written and directed a couple of horror classics, Fright Night and Child's Play. But he wrote the screenplay for The Initiation of Sarah, which is a pretty interesting, kind of creepy little TV movie from 1978. And then another really creepy, it's not a TV movie, but I don't know, for some reason it has that feel. And it's getting a new Blu-ray release, or has been released, called Scream for Help. And it's a real kind of sleazy girl in peril movie that is similar in a way to The Stepfather. I think it came out prior to The Stepfather. It's an interesting little film written by Tom Holland and directed by Michael Winner, who did a lot of exploitation movies and those really cheesy and sleazy Charles Bronson movies in the 80s. But Tom Holland also wrote the screenplay for Class of 1984 and Psycho 2 and Thinner. And I enjoy all of those. Thinner is kind of a weak Stephen King adaptation, but Class of 1984 is an interesting film. And Psycho 2 is a great, kind of underrated, really late sequel to the classic Psycho. Apparently, they had the rights to a book that hadn't actually been written yet. The author missed his deadline or something, and they had already optioned the rights, so Tom Holland created his own story based on the title, and it is a strange story. We have Ronnie Cox and B.B. Besh traveling through the backwoods of Louisiana. They crash, and Ronnie Cox goes off to find help, and his wife is attacked and raped in the woods by some kind of creature that we don't get a very good look at. We then have a time jump of 17 years, and their son, who is the product of this rape, is now exhibiting strange and violent behaviors. So this is one of those 80s horror movies that tries to class itself up a little bit with a name cast, older characters with Ronnie Cox and B.B. Besh, and they're investigating the attack on her from 17 years earlier, all the while their son is having these murderous and cannibalistic urges. So we have a lot of cross-cut action between the two. So we've got a little bit of class, a little bit of sleaze, a bunch of gore, and then probably what the movie is most famous for is the end transformation, which utilized bladder effects, which had become kind of de rigueur in horror after American Werewolf in London and The Howling and Altered States and other movies like that. And they are over the top and kind of laughable in parts, but also pretty impressive. And that's the stuff that, if I had watched this as a kid, probably would have put it in the regular rotation. I would liken The Beast Within to Scanners, and not in quality, but I used to rent that pretty much exclusively for the effects. And it has the best head explosion in any movie ever made, hands down, and some interesting bladder effects. And the rest of the story, though, I find now that I get fairly bored with it. I really don't like the lead in that movie. So this has kind of that, it's probably about 15 minutes too long, got a little too much story, and it's elevated by those effects scenes. And the effects scenes are nowhere near as good as Scanners, but they are so over the top compared to the rest of the movie that it's got that weird feel and tone. So this is a minor recommendation. Like I said, I've only watched it twice. I caught it a couple years ago, and then it's making the rounds on MGM right now, and so I thought I would give it a shot. Sometimes I like movies more the second time, sometimes less. I think I enjoyed it more this second viewing. I can't give a wholehearted recommendation, but if you stumble across it on a streaming site, give it a shot. It does have some interesting moments, some strange acting from a lot of the supporting characters, and just enough sleaze and cheese to get a halfway thumbs up from me. I did want to note that there are 2 scenes of sexual assault in the movie for those that are sensitive to that. And even though it is being perpetrated by a creature, it is slightly graphic. So there's a forewarning there. And then another warning, if you don't want spoilers, skip all the way to the end or just finish here, because I'm going to read the Psychotronic review, which is fairly lengthy and very spoilery. So if you're done with the episode, thanks for listening. For the rest of you, here is the Psychotronic review. The Beast Within, 1982, United Artists. Producers, Harvey Bernhard and Gabriel Katzka. Director, Philipe Mora. Screenwriter, Tom Holland. Forget logic and you may enjoy this dark tale of a teenaged boy, Paul Clemens, who turns into a cannibalizing insect. The McClearys neglected to tell their son that he was conceived when mom was raped by a swamp monster. Now 17, he's starting to shed his skin. Just like a cicada, says one character. This revolting transformation is squeezed for all it's worth, particularly when, for no reason other than cinema thrills, his head starts to blow up like a moldy wet balloon. This silly premise for a horror movie is saved by a cast that plays it for real. Director Mora helps by casually tossing off explanations of the weird occurrences while concentrating on the dark aspects of the story and the atmosphere of a tiny incestuous southern town. The end product of the boy's transformation, a slimier, more believable...
That doesn't sound right.
More believable version of dozens of rubber-suited creatures that stalked the 1950s B-movies, decapitates, skewers, and eats everyone in its path. Credit for the gory effects goes to Thomas Berman's Makeup Studio, the folks behind Prophecy and Cat People. Music by Les Baxter, with L.Q. Jones, R. And that brings the first iteration of Why Didn't I Rent That to an end. Thank you very much for listening. This is Mark, and don't forget to wake up heavy.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.